Alrighty. Well, hello there. Hello, my friends. Ruben Obed here, transmitting live once again from GB Music Group. And today, the subject that I'm bringing at hand is my own personal experience. And this is my unscientific analysis of parallel versus series connections for solar panels. Now, before I start this video, I want to emphasize that I am not an electrician. I am not an electric professional. I'm just a regular guy like you that watch YouTube videos, that learn from other YouTube content creators on this particular subject of solar panels and off-grid living. So, I don't want you to feel that what I'm saying is like this is my personal analysis based on the experiments that I've done with my own system. Okay. um my system consists of 6 deep cycle batteries, which are not true deep cycle batteries. They're hybrid. They are the RV kind, the hybrid between cold cranking amps and deep cycle. But that's what I have, and they're good. And I have all 6 of them running in parallel with 4 gauge cable. Okay, on my roof I have two 30-watt solar panels running in parallel, and I'm running it through an EP Ever um MPPT charge controller. Okay, the charge controller I just got recently, so this is my new experience with the EP Ever charge controller. Now, this is really simple. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, in series is better. In series is better. You use thinner wires." And okay. Now, my personal setup right now with my two 30-watt solar panels on the EP Ever, okay? I did the test yesterday and I did the test today. Here in Puerto Rico, we have really good sun and I have the solar panels on the roof. And both solar panels were putting out unconsistently about 1.6 amps is what I got the reading on the MPPT charge controller at about 15 volts. Now, yesterday went up to maybe 18 volts at some points, but the highest figure that I got in parallel, these two 30-watt solar panels in parallel, I got 1.6 amps of power going into the battery. Okay, now what happens is this: I took it upon myself today to hook it up in series. I figured, okay, well, maybe since I have an MPPT charge controller, if I put them in series, I'll get the higher voltage, right? And then the MPPT charge controller will translate that excess voltage, into amperage on my battery bank. And when I look, when I did the connection, I come back down, I check the EP Ever, and it is giving me the 24 volts that it's supposed to because I put it in series, but the amps was zero. It said 0 amps. Now, in parallel, it was reading out 1.6, which is really interesting. So then I go back upstairs and I switch and I put it back to parallel and come back down. Parallel is giving me 1.6 readout. In my opinion, parallel is better. That 24 volts, it said zero. I mean, I'm not an expert at this. I'm just judging by my personal experience, but it seems to me that, and correct me if I'm wrong. I know I watch a lot of videos of people like Will Prowse who knows his stuff. Correct me if I am wrong, but I feel that parallel is superior than series. I understand that in parallel you have more amperage, you need thicker gauge wire. I understand that. And I also hear everybody say, "Oh, well, this 24-volt system is more efficient." I hear that. But what happens is that I did a test with a light bulb, and at 12 volts, the I noticed, maybe it's just perception on my behalf, I don't know. I noticed that the light bulb actually was brighter on on the 12 volts instead of 24 volts, you know? So I say to myself, well, you know what? Batteries have amps in it. That's the capacity. Now, if the light bulb was brighter on a 12-volt system, and judging by the test that I did, that I put my solar panels in parallel versus in series, and I got more amps out of a parallel connection. I got more amps out of a parallel connection. To me, parallel is superior. Now, if you put two solar panels in parallel, and one of them, for example, gets filled with snow for some reason, the other one is still going to be outputting power. You're still going to be getting power. You getting current out of that solar panel. And if you put it in series and one of those solar panels gets covered in snow, then you're producing zero power, you know? So now I say to myself, what would then be the benefit of doing a series connection? Because anything can happen. You know, even with the batteries, when you put the batteries in parallel and one of the batteries goes bad, the system will keep working with the batteries that are still good. And you got the option of removing the one battery that went bad and you keep going. But with a 24-volt system, if one battery goes bad, you don't got 24 volts anymore. Therefore, your system ain't gonna be working. I personally, I'm aware, once again, I mean, um I am not naive to the fact that, you know, and the scientific analysis of this would be that 24 volt is a more efficient system. It's more efficient, it's easier on the inverter to change 24 volts to 110 than it is from 12, and the cable wire. I personally like the really fat cables. I personally like it. I could have a 48-volt system. I would still want those big ass wires. I don't know. It just looks beefy and nice. I love it. Shit, I got my entire system with 4-gauge cable. I hope at some point I could put 2-gauge cable, because I like it. I mean, that's just a personal preference. I don't care. Yeah, it's going to cost more. I'm well aware of that. It's going to cost more, you know. But that's why I said this is an unscientific analysis. But I really, really feel, contrary to science, contrary to that, I feel that a parallel connection is superior and will give you more bang for your buck than a series connection. Now, the only thing that I kind of see that a series connection would be beneficial is if you're using solar panels that are like different makes and models, like 30 watt and the 20 watt one. Then you would hook all of those up in series and it would level everything out. In a parallel situation, all the solar panels need to be like exactly the same, because if you put like a 30-watt solar panel in parallel with a 100-watt solar panel, then you're losing, because they try to equalize. So you might end up, the 100-watt panel might end up putting out 30, and then you're losing that rest. So I understand that part of the equation. In that case, in that particular situation, I would agree that a series connection is more appropriate. But in a situation with solar panels that are exactly the same, I feel like, and based on my personal tests, that parallel is superior. Parallel, I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If you want, guys, you could write it down in the comments. Now, listen to this analysis that I'm trying to portray here. If you got two 100 two 100 amp hour batteries. All right, let's say they're 12 volts. You got two batteries, each of them are 100 amp hours. Now, if you hook those two batteries in parallel, all right, then you're gonna have 200 amp hours with a 12-volt battery bank. So you'd have a 12-volt battery bank, and you'd have 200 amp hours. Now, if I hook a fan up to that 100, and let's say a little fan that draws 1 amp, theoretically, and I know we're not supposed to, empty them out more than 50%, but theoretically, a little fan should run 200 hours if it's drawing 1 amp, right? Now, drawing 1 amp, 200 hours. In a 24-volt system, you take two batteries that are 100 watts, 100 amp hours. You put them in series, and it'll give you 24 volts, but it'll only give you 100 amp hours. Because when you put it in series, the voltage doubles, but the amperage stays the same. Now, so theoretically, if I take that little fan, let's say now I would need a 24-volt fan, but that 24-volt fan with those same two batteries, in my opinion, would only run 100 amp hours. See, because maybe I'm not grasping the whole situation, but to me, 200 amp hours sounds like double to 100 amp hours. Now, I know people are going to tell me, hey, Ruben, no, but you got to look at this in watts. You got to look at it in watts. I understand the whole watt situation, but I believe, see, this is how I'm seeing this whole battery system. I'm seeing the battery system like a big bucket of water, all right? If I got 200 gallons of water and I'm putting out 1 gallon every hour, I get 200 gallons, 200 hours. Now, people say, oh, but 24 volt is more efficient. And in terms of wattage, theoretically, all right, it's supposed to give me double the the watt hours. It's supposed to last longer. But I really feel that it does not. I really feel that a parallel system with its inefficiencies, okay, will last a hell of a lot longer than any series connection. That's what I feel. Because people talk about watts, but what amps, it's what makes that shit work. Amps. You know what I mean? So if a fan, if you hook up two batteries in series, you have less amps. So you have less time for that shit to run. When I hooked up the light bulb, it was brighter on 12 volts than it was on 24 volts. So, that is the thing. People talk about watts. I don't know. I just don't. I don't like measuring it through watts. I really don't. I look at this from an amp perspective. But once again, like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm not like an electrical engineer, and I know there's a lot of stuff that I need to learn, but just looking at it from a really basic common sense perspective, to me, less amps means less time using whatever the hell it is I plug into it. So why would I want to connect something in series which will give me less amps? That's the paradigm that is fucking my brain up. Because everybody, but the efficiency 24 volts, you can use thinner wires at 24. I don't care about the stupid ass wires. Fuck the wires. You guys are all concerned about the damn wires. I don't care. I like fat wires. I'm talking about how long. I'm talking about longevity. That is what is important to me, longevity. And even though I have a lot of people telling me that 24 volts is more efficient, and theoretically you're gonna get double the, double the watt hours, but there's just something that just, to me, it does not add up, and I don't see it. So I go up, so then I go up to the roof and I do this test with my solar panels, and once again, I feel that I'm right. I really do. That's why I don't want to step away from the whole parallel connection and the whole 12-volt parallel connection, because the way I'm looking at it is I got more amps in a parallel connection. I got one battery that's 100 amp hours. I got another battery, it's 100 amp hours. I put them together, I get 200 amp hours. That means my little fan can run for 200 hours. And at 50%, it would be 100 hours. But my whole point is, if I hook that battery in series, the amps don't add up. So basically, it's like, it would be like running off of one battery. But like I said, guys, I'm not an expert on this subject. This is just an unscientific analysis. Now, I want you to be aware that I am aware of that. We should measure it in watt hours. I'm all aware that this is just a basic analysis of how I'm looking at this, because, once again, you take two batteries, you put them in parallel, the voltage stays the same, but the amperage goes up. So to me, if the amperage goes up, the amp hours double too. But like I said, if I'm incorrect, guys, if I get somebody on here who is like very, very highly educated in this whole solar electric field, I would like you to put your comments up, and please don't be so fucking technical. You guys get so damn technical that then you don't fucking understand. You talk about Ohm's law and talk about this and that. I don't want to hear no shit about Puchert's law or Ohm's laws. I don't want to hear that. Which one will last longer running a little fan? Series or parallel? That's it. Which one will last longer? Longevity. Because I don't give a damn about how efficient it is. I want my shit, even if it's inefficient, I want my fan, and I'm using a fan figuratively, I want that fan to last the longest turned on. Now, will it last longer in parallel? Will it last longer in series? I believe that's where my unscientific analysis comes. I believe that it will last longer in parallel. I believe in parallel. I don't like series. I don't like it. At this point in my solar career, which isn't a career at all, but in my solar experience, I believe in parallel connections. I believe in the 12-volt system. I love the really fat gauge wire, the really big thick wires. I think it looks awesome when you got a nice beefy system with some really fat cables. Oh man, it looks gorgeous. I don't want no damn thin ass wires looking all, I mean, that's just me, guys. I mean, like, everybody has their preferences and things, that I'm just giving you my preferences. So, if you got any comments, please put it in the description. I am not here thinking that I am no fucking expert on this whole thing, because I'm not, and I'm saying it, I'm not. So to all the haters who are gonna start talking shit, I already said it, I'm not. So if you hate on me, you're stupid ass, because I already said it, you're stupid ass, because I'm telling you to your face that I'm not an expert on this. This is just my opinion based on my own experience. So, all right, guys. Well, y'all take care. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments, and enlighten me. Ruben Obed.